we only got up to the second or third one.
All right, then let's go. There's no question. In psychic and spiritual development, there's we're going over the 8 limbs of yoga for psychic and spiritual development. And doing that, then we're going in and examining each one to see how it actually benefits us. Okay. The last week I think I went over how controlling and restraint, bringing a control and restraint over your thoughts and actions, begin to mold and shape the aura. Because what you're doing, you're predetermining your actions. And in the Raja Yoga book of Sivananda, he gives these 10 yamas, which is non-injury, truthfulness, no stealing, divine conduct, controlling lust by remaining celibate when single, right? Patience, steadfastness, compassion, honesty, moderate appetite, which goes into abstaining from meats. There's 3 types of vegetarianism, which is one is all vegetables. The next is the vegetables with dairy and eggs, and the third is vegetables with fish.
What's potrooms?
Huh?
What's potrooms?
It's like chicken. And the 10th one, purity. Avoiding impure in body and mind, speech and deeds. So this may seem superficial, but it's not. What it does is it begins to cleanse the aura of negative samskaras. That's what and that's what you want to do. Every time you have a thought, and that thought follows an action, that thought and action creates what's called samskaras in your aura. It's like little tiny seeds. And those seeds, it seed your aura for future energy, future thoughts, future whatever. And as you move through life and you come up to certain situations or certain environments, these seeds burst forward and you have to play them out because they become either good traits or bad traits within you. It's the thing that makes up your personality, because you build your personality, you build who you are. So those samskaras, they scar your aura in a sense, giving you, creating your future environment, your future actions. So it's just like I always say, if you turn some music on, the music, samskaras respond to music quickly. You turn music on, what happened? The music take you back in time to a place, to some type of event. It can make you cry or make you happy. Because why? It has that effect on the samskaras in the in your aura. And these samskaras embed themselves for thousands upon thousands of years in your aura. So The first yama is control. Control over your thoughts and actions. The next one is the second limb of yoga, is the yoga of what I call sacred observance of life. Because when you observe life in a sacred way, then you place God in your actions. And this, in my opinion, as I say here, the control of his or her mental, emotional, and physical activities of life from the practice of Yama bring us to Niyama, a polishing technique for determining the right actions in your life through control and restraint. And that's what it does. It actually polishes your control. The control you placing over your life, because it places a sacredness over it. It is a series of religious practice which cultivates qualities of the higher way of life, meaning that when you begin to adopt God or some creative being in your actions or in your thoughts, then you begin to curb your mental thinking. You begin to curb your actions a little bit better, especially when you know that you're connected to the all. Whatever you do affects everything around you. So it helps you to predetermine your actions better. The only way you gain enlightenment in the world is by predetermining your actions. When you predetermine your thought and actions, they elevate your thoughts to a different level. Because why? Because then you're no longer creating an abundance of negative samskaras. That's what we do. We create all these negative samskaras that come back and hunt us and tear us apart. So we want to get away from that. Devotion towards God, cognition towards living life, living right. See, these things you want to do. You want to do these things because why? Because they help you to mold and shape your auric fields. Okay? And that's the whole thing. That's where we want to go to. Of course, here again, I modified some of these a little bit for greater explanation. The Sivananda again gives 10 niyamas. Somebody want to read it for me?
The following are 10 niyama to adopt in your life to transform the auric fields into higher mental configurations of mind energies. They are conducive to a balanced form of psychic and spiritual development. The first is remorse, being modest and showing shame for misdeeds. The second is contentment, seeking joy and serenity in life, negating your responsibilities. Giving, tithing, and giving generously without thought of reward. 4 is faith, believing firmly in God, believing in the guru or teacher as someone who is closer to God than you are, and can guide you to the path of enlightenment. 5, worship of the Lord, the cultivation of devotion through daily worship and meditation. 6, scriptural listening, studying the teachings and listening to the wise of one's lineage. Cognition, developing a spiritual will and intellect with the guru teacher's guidance. 8, sacred vows, fulfilling religious vows, rules, and observances faithfully. 9, recitation, chanting mantras daily. And 10, austerity, performing sadhana, and penance, tapas, and sacrifice.
So these are simple principles, but they do these things for a reason, because it begins to shape and mold their thought process, which helps to mold and shape the aura. When you see someone who's practicing, who have became what they call a renunciant, whether they're Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, or whatever, you see a countenance about them. It's because majority of them adopt these type principles. See? And the negative, the negative samskaras that the average person build on a regular basis are not being done by them. So they're cleaning their aura up. What does this do? What happens, the more you clean your aura, the more you pull out the blockages within the aura, what happens is you begin to have a free flow of life force within the nadi pathways. And this is your goal. This is all of our goals. We have a free flow of energy within the nadi pathways. The nadi pathways is the thing that help us to hold and build our consciousness. You have 242,000 nadi pathways within the body. Within these pathways, as they cross, as they intersection, they create pathways that lead towards the major chakras along the spine. These pathways that, when they intersect along the major pathways, they create levels of consciousness. This is how you function. So over reincarnation after reincarnation after reincarnation of doing the wrong things, thinking the wrong things, all our actions begin to build up blockages within these pathways. So it limits our perception. So over time, when we read the ancient teachings of the Vedas or the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads, what we find that at one time, man was much more psychic. He was much more spiritual. But over time, as he moved away from the divine laws of karma and began to do his own thing and build negative karma against himself, he created the blockages within his aura, which separated his senses. So now, the average child that's born rely on their physical senses. They don't have use of their astral senses or their etheric senses. This has been blocked. So this type of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, guide us back into using all those senses. Because the first 2-3 limbs teach us to cleanse the system and teach us how to make contact with the different levels of consciousness. As you cleanse the nadi pathways, you cleanse the aura. And what happened, the physical senses and the astral senses, they merge together and they create the psychic senses. Then when you have your physical sight and psychic sight merge, you can see in 2 different worlds at the same time. Okay, and this is what cleansing the nadi pathway, this is what it does. Okay, once you have developed the psychic senses, and you can use the psychic senses repeatedly and perfect them, because just like if you never walked before, you have to learn how to walk. You have to learn how to walk and then how to run. So the same thing with your psychic senses. Once you merge the 2 senses, you have to learn how they work. So after you have a good use of those psychic senses, then you can merge them with your etheric senses, which is the higher senses of the upper chakras. And once you do that, then you have an advanced level of psychic powers, or cities, as they call them. Okay. So the second limb is really simple. It's just adopting certain religious practices in order to help cleanse the aura. The next one is asana. You want to read that for me?
The third limb of Raja Yoga, asanas, teaches the student to control and calm the mind through sealing the prana and mind substance within the body. Asanas seal, redirect, and redistribute the life force within the body via the nadi system. Asanas are seats and postures ancient science of Mudra Yoga and Bandhas. Asanas mudras offer physical methods to the student for controlling the subtle vital energies within the nadi pathways of the auric structure. The above diagram images gives 5 steps for obtaining this asana, which pushes the life forces of the body upwards and seals off the flow of certain prana, while the increase offers allow great mental calmness. But this is the Padmasana, lotus. One of the key components to the Mudra Yoga techniques is the mystical hand signs. The hand signs are the trigger switches and control mechanisms that can automatically manipulate the subtle flow of pranas within the nadi pathways, auric bodies, and physical body. All the major chakras along the spinal column are connected to the hands. All 5 mahabhutas, cosmic elements, and the 5 major pranas can all be controlled from the hands using mudra techniques. In the practice of Mudra Yoga, the whole body, mind, and soul is used in the technique. The fingers, hands, and arm positions are the main focus of Mudra Yoga. The head, legs, breath, and right mental visualization are also used in Mudra Yoga. The reason why the main focus is placed on the fingers, hands, and arms position is that the hands are the link to at least 5 of the major chakras along the spinal column.
Okay, we can practice, we can show this right away. Go ahead, just go to the next slide.
Each finger is not only a link to the chakras, but the flow of the major 5 pranas. The fingers and hands also represent the elements of the earth. During the actual technique of the mudras, the arms are used to align the fingers and hands with the flow of pranas and the mental projections emerging from the major chakras along the spinal column. The following table shows the finger relationships to the psychic centers, elements, tattvic pranic states, the 5 major pranas, and the associated chakras with each particular finger. The following table shows the fingers' relationships to the chakras, elements, tattvic pranic states, bhutas, the 5 major pranas, and the associated with the chakras of each particular finger. Starting with the thumb, you have earth, prana, the tattvic pranic state, Prithivi, that's correct. Exactly. The associated chakra is the base of the spine, Muladhara. The index finger, the element is water. The tattvic pranic state is apas. The major prana associated with the index finger is dhyana, and the psychic center associated with the index finger is the sex center. The middle finger, its element is fire, and its tattvic pranic state is tejas. The major prana is samana, and it is associated with the solar plexus center. The ring finger is associated with air, and its tattvic pranic state is vayu. Its major prana is prana, and is associated with the heart chakra. And finally, the little finger, pinky finger, associated with ether. Its tattvic pranic state is akasha. Its major prana is udana, and it is associated with the throat chakra.
Now, you can test this out for yourself. If you sit back and just try to think about something, and let's do it right quick. Just try to think about anything, right? Focus your mind. And it's kind of hard to do, right? But if you adopt a mudra, you can accomplish that much quicker because the mudra has a triggering effect. This mudra right here helps you to think. So if you do this mudra, you'll be guided into that concentrative mental plane quicker. Because what it does, it seals and redirects mind and energy. See? So this is the mudras are used as a triggering mechanism to help you lock into mind, substance, and prana quick.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
By doing that mudra, you are locking water and earth.
Yeah, think about it like this. The finger represents, the thumb represents the first chakra, right? The first chakra is self-consciousness. The Muladhara represents self-consciousness. Okay? The pointing finger represents the sex chakra. The sex chakra is the seat of consciousness. So you have self-consciousness and you have the seat of consciousness. When you bring those two together, you seal and redirect. You're taking control over that mind, substance, and energy that represents those two chakras. So you can achieve a state of steady consciousness through doing that quicker. It gives you a greater control. Okay? It's the same way if you walked into a room and I gave you the practice before, I won't give it now, but you walk into a room and use a certain mudra to bless that room, right? And if you bless all the walls of that room, you'll notice that you can concentrate better, right? You have a greater level of concentration. Because why? You seal that room off. So a lot of negative thoughts or negative energy that was once flowing through that room, you cut it off. And then you can sit in that room and you can concentrate and contemplate better in that room. Okay, so that's what mudras are. Mudras, it helps you to manipulate subtle energy. Okay, so that's why, and that's why you use the mudras. All right, so you see it's a build-up. The first two chakras help you to lessen and to cleanse the aura and lessen the negative effect of the energy, the life force within the aura, right? And you begin to gain control over it because why? Now you have a free-flowing energy within the body, within the subtle body. Okay? And then the third one teaches you to manipulate subtle energies within the body, subtle and mind substance within the body. That's what it does. That's what these 8 limbs are all about. Now, let's go to the next one. Any other questions? This here I just gave, was giving an analysis of the Siddhasana, all right, to show you why they would do what they do. Okay? To show you how the spine is kept straight to allow a free flow of prana to be pushed up, right? And at the same time, there's a pressure being placed on the lower region. And that's why that's one of the reasons why you have the lotus or the Siddhasana. The lotus mudra pushes the lower energies from the legs and pelvic area up to the higher chakras and seal the flow of prana from the flow back region of the lower chakras. Because that's your whole motion, is to push the consciousness up. Because remember, there's chakras in the leg as well. Okay? Those chakras in the leg belongs to who? Anyone remember?
Animals.
Animals, yeah. So the chakras in the legs represents the animal life that some of us may have lived. All right? Our consciousness have risen above that. The base, the Muladhara chakra in the base of the spine, that chakra represents the crown chakra for the animal kingdom, because the animal kingdom goal is to become self-conscious, as we are. And our goal is to become more God-conscious to the crown chakra. position straight down, it allows a free flow of energy to travel through the chakras and exit the chakras along the spinal column. Okay, the arm positions, what it does, it helps you when if you raise your hand, like when we pray, we raise our hands up like this, because why? We're activating the heart chakra. See? So your arm position helps you to activate the chakras flow of energy. So when you place it down like that and you put the pressure on the back, you push the energy up, but you also activate the chakras. You activate all the chakras to a certain degree. This here again, just give you a little bit more about the mudra and asana. Hand signs used here is the Chitta mudra that I was telling you earlier, called a psychic gesture of consciousness. There are two ways to performing this mudra. The first method shown in the picture, and figure one shows the thumb over the first finger with it hugged under the thumb. See, there's more than one way of doing this, but it's kind of, it aims doing, it accomplishes the same thing. Here's the other way. Any other questions?
Going back to the sealing the base of the spine chakra and the sex chakra, using that first mudra.
Mm-hmm.
By sealing, you're sealing the flow of prana going to those chakras.
You're taking control over them. All right, with all these mudras, what I didn't give is the visualization of part of it, or the mantra that's supposed to be used with it. I only do that if I'm doing a class of practice. But what you would do, you automatically, when you do this, you automatically bring some type of control over the mental apparatus that you, the consciousness or the soul, is working through. Okay?
So since these first two chakras, lower thoughts come from there, by sealing them, you won't think lower thoughts, you'll think higher thoughts.
No, well, you'll have control over the thoughts that you place through it. The visualization is happening. It'll have you, the soul, working through you, the little you, consciousness, to control the flow of mind substance and prana going through there. You understand? Always go back to the mystic constitution of man. Okay, the soul, the soul is manifested from the spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else after the soul is a expression of the soul. In other words, it's a tool that the soul uses in order to accomplish its goal of moving itself through evolution, through involution and evolution back to the spirit again, or the absolute. Okay? So that's what it's doing. So the Mudra Yoga is to seal, to redirect, redistribute subtle pranas and mind substance. So it's a tool that you can use in doing it. All right. just giving you the general understanding. I'm not going deep into it. To go deep into it, I'll have to give you the visualizations and certain mantras that you use with it. Okay, but I'm giving you a general knowledge of how it works. All right? So there's no other questions? So everyone understand the whole samskara part of it? Let's go into that a little bit more. She's not in this building. We told her. She takes you.
Who was Sarah? She on campus?
She said she is. She looks like kind of high country.
You told her this building and
Sent her a map. Give her a phone number. What I'm saying.
told her across the lake from the library.
Next to 8th Street.
She says I have tried many directions. Oh, that's what you used to. She doesn't have a picture of me.
Yeah, but it's just her eyes, I guess. People's eyes.
Can everybody see that?
Enlarge it just a little more. Where it says 75%.
Let me see. Better? Okay, now, this is, just a little diagram we had a while back. And it shows the stored and released samskaras. So, on our daily life, the different skills we have is based on the samskaras of our present and past lives. And it all has to do with karma. You know, the karma energy. Karma is a law these fall within the framework of karma. So on a daily basis, we create these samskaras from our own thought and actions. Every little thought you have create a samskara. So if you're hanging out in bars and drinking and carrying on, then that's the type of negative samskaras that you're building in your life. If you're a domineering person who's always telling people what to do and controlling their outlook and being very controlling or dictator-like, then you building those negative samskaras. And what happened? You gotta understand that God doesn't punish us. We're not punished by God. We're punished by ourselves. Now, of course, God put the law of karma, because the law of karma is God. It placed the law of karma in place, and everything works within a framework of that law. But we dictate our destiny. It's the decisions that we make that drive us in the direction that we go. So if we make all the wrong decisions, then we get all the wrong rewards. If we make right decisions, we get right awards. So it's not God saying, I'm going to punish you for doing this, that, and the other. No, why should God punish itself? It doesn't make sense. But it's a working out of your karma that each and every one of us is doing. So our aura projects this itself and creates or attracts the correct situations we need in order to modify our actions, because karma, the law of karma is what? It's pressure towards conformity, right? So the pressure is placed on the environment by us in order to give us the proper lessons we need in order to develop ourselves over time. So it's not necessarily God, it's us. We create our own destiny. And these samskaras, we create these samskaras, they fall in the aura. We either act on them right away, or we act on them tomorrow, or the next day, or the next year, or the next 10 years, or the next life. But, we have to deal with them. We have to deal with all our thoughts and actions at one time or another. Yeah.
Are you saying that those are the good samskaras, right? The lower, the higher?
Well, you got positive samskaras and you have negative samskaras. You have both.
But the athlete's skills, samskaras that is coming from the
It can be good or bad. It depends on how you use it.
motive.
It's the intent behind any action that makes it so-called good or so-called bad. Because what's good for you and I might be bad for somebody else. So good and bad is relative, really. It's the intent and the outcome of that action that actually determine its value. A lot of people like to say, well, you can't really eat meat. Well, that's not necessarily so. Eating meat overall is bad for you. But if that's all you have to eat, then it might be good for you too. So it's the circumstances that's built around that. If you living in a desert type area and there's no vegetables there to eat, it's only crawly things on the ground, then you gotta eat that to survive. Because to let yourself die would be like suicide, and that's definitely wrong. So So you have to have some type of, practical understanding behind things, you know. So there's, good and bad is relative.
So is it then the level of detachment that comes with each action that determines?
Yeah, well, it's the level of intent and maybe detachment too. But I mean, you have to be able to discern which, what should I do? So, and then some people make up, I know one person that they tried being a vegetarian and they became sick. Their body was too used to the meat or something. I don't know. But they tried over and over and over, and each time they got sicker and sicker and sicker. Until they found the right adjustment that they had to eat some meats but not all meats. So it depends on the makeup of that person too. Now I know some people say, well, don't eat meat, die, and be reborn again, and you won't have to deal with it no more. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you need to live as long as you can in order to burn up as much negative karma as you can, so that you can come back in your next life in a more balanced fashion. I think in here I show some of the negative and positive samskaras, the aura. Negative samskaras, attachment, anger, malice, greed, jealousy, envy, pride. This is not all of them, it's much more. I think they list at least 21 of them in most yoga books. And the positive, detachment, unselfish love, kindness, devotion, prayer, mantra. All these things are positive. They create positive energy within the body, within the aura.
Mantra and mudra and those actions can also be negative samskaras too if your intent behind them.
If your intent is wrong, but the repercussion is greater.
Yeah.
When you use these type of energies, when you create energies from mantra or yoga or systems like that or mudra, then the karma is threefold. In other words, the pressure that you build up is threefold because you build up a pure, you grab a hold to a pure energy using something. It's not like, in other words, how can I explain it to you? Jet fuel and natural gas. There's a big difference, right? The jet fuel is much more powerful, right, than natural gas. So I mean, and really it's a greater difference than that, So I mean, so you cannot, you should not use mantra or any type of mudra to do something negative, because it's a threefold type negative karma coming back at you. Okay, so don't ever do that, and especially with mantra, because mantra is if you look at any chakra diagram, what you're looking at is a series of symbols that represent mantra, because mantra is the language of the soul. Okay, so when you invoke a mantra, you're invoking the power that the soul used to mold and shape mind and energy. Okay, so that's why you should never misuse a mantra. All right. So that's why the karma is the pressure of the karma from that is greater. So think about it. If you've been around for at least 18 million years on this earth, going from one reincarnation to the next, you have a lot of samskaras built up in your aura. And you have to clean your aura out. And that's why sometimes the great masters will tell you it takes several lifetimes to to become an adept or even a master. It takes several lifetimes, you know. And even after you become an adept, you have to serve. You have to be an adept for many lifetimes before you reach mastership. You know, so it's because still even at that level you burning up negative karma. And even when you become a master, you have to live so many years as a master in order to reach ascension. You know, because why? Because you're still burning up negative karma. You know? Yeah.
When you say spend many lives as an adept, that means reincarnating as an adept again.
Reincarnating.
You have to start over, or you start from where you left off?
You start over. You start over. It'll be quicker to get back to the point where you were. Mm-hmm. But the good thing about being an adept, you can predict or dictate where your next lesson's coming from. You know, you can set the stage for yourself, in other words. Some adepts and masters, they prolong their life through various methods. I don't know what the karmic repercussion of that is, but some of them actually, if they want to extend their life and they haven't did all the right things on this earth to extend the body that they're in, they go find another body and move their consciousness into that body who's someone who just died. They manipulate the energy, heal the body, and stuff in there, and finish their mission for that life. They may add another years on, unless that's if they couldn't generate the necessary energy within the body that they was in. They do that, and they extend their life like that. Certain black musicians do the same thing. Okay, it's all about energy. It's all about the life force. It's all about you having control over your consciousness. Mm-hmm. So once you reach adeptship, it's harder, but yet you have a greater control over your present situation, in other words. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
In the example of, let's say, a master manipulating, I guess, his karma in order to go into the body of a dead body, like somebody who had just passed.
Mm.
I know, how does that affect the person whose body it is that he's going to? Because that person is very responsible for their body, right? But obviously they've moved on, but that body is still something that they're responsible for.
Well, he just did them a good deed.
Okay, so he speeded up.
Yeah, he just did a good deed for them because he's going to accelerate that body, to a different level. And then, of course, he, the master, know how to expose that body in order to offset any type of throwback or negative karma, fallout. Because that's the whole thing about, as we learn about becoming the ascended master, everything that you have touched in this lifetime, in your lifetimes, all the energy that you manipulated, that you had direct contact, you become responsible for that. You are responsible for it. So it's about transmuting that energy into something higher, because you borrowed that energy from the three Mahabindus, which is the sun, moon, and earth. You borrowed that energy, that material. You, the soul, borrowed that material. So now you have to generate. It's just like remember again. It's just like an equation. You have to balance the equation. What you took, you have to balance it back with positive energy. So you have to transmute that amount of energy. So the longer we be here, the greater debt we build up for ourselves, in other words.
So, for example, like Swami Vivekananda, he died at 40, but he died at that age because he
Was it 42 or 40?
yes.
It was 42, yeah.
So he already did everything that he set his life to do or was destined to do in a way.
He used up all the energy in that body. That's what, I mean, that's as far as he can take that body karmically. So he had to exit the body. The karmic pressures was there upon him that he had to exit the body. So now, I don't know if I'm sure if he wanted to, he probably could have manipulated karma to extend his life or move to the next body because he had the wherewithal. But his job on earth, his mission on earth at that time was to bring teachings to the West. So and no telling what other missions he had as well. So so I'm sure he didn't have time to spend in some cave somewhere devising and calculating exactly how to extend his life. And that's the thing. Most of these people that you read about or hear about that have did these things, when you trace back, where were they or what they were doing, they spent a great portion of their life in solitude, unlocking those secrets. Okay? This is just talking about the basic laws of karma. Action and reaction is opposite and equal. Just going back to what I was saying earlier about the framework. The karma is a framework. Creation cannot be brought about without karma. Karma had to come first because it's the framework of the whole creation. It had to be a law first, in other words. And as the good book say, God spoke the word, and the word was God. That word was the law of karma. From that, all other creation came. So, any other questions? I don't want to go too much further because the pranayama is long. Is there any other questions?
When you do these practices and you accelerate your karma, how do you see that in your life? How do you see the effects of that in your life? What starts to happen to you when things around you?
I think one of the things that began to happen is that certain people, certain friends or relatives or close associates, if they not trying to accelerate or trying to do the right things, the majority of times they can't hang with you anymore. You lose friendship. And you don't have to say a thing about it. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. It's just the energy itself will have them not to want to be around you. So you kind of create the magnet that was pulling them before is sometimes severed. And it becomes something that pushes them away. Now, some people may say, well, that sounds negative. It's not really, because a lot of times if they stay, then the outcome wouldn't be good for them. So it's and then some people become closer because they find you more approachable. But in most cases, I have seen that majority of people shy away from it because they can't stand to be around you. It's like the old, I told this a long time ago, I met this the older guy who was a mystic from Cuba, very wise and smart. He told me, he said, you notice that when people do good, you know, when you go and help someone and just overwhelm them with your love and service, it's, you know, after that period of gone, that person, they can't stand to see you. They can't stand to be in your presence. And he said as simple as, you become a reflection of their weakness, of their low point. So every time they see you, it reminds them of how much you did for them. You know, so somehow on some subtle level, the same thing happens. Like if you begin to live your life in a particular way and try to live a virtuous type life and a good life, and you're not judging, you're not criticizing, you're just doing your thing. People, they look at you, it becomes a reflection of what they're not doing. So somehow it's on a psychological level, an emotional level, somehow it repels them. They don't want to be around you because they want to continue to do all the things they want to do, which they know is not right. You know, even if they're not conscious of wanting to do those wrong things, it can be an unconscious thing with them. But for some reason, they don't want to be with you. You know, they know if you gave up smoking or drinking or fornicating or whatever, they know you gave up these things. But you never say anything about it. You don't have to say a thing about it. It's just on you. And they just don't want to be around you because of that. Because you become a reflection of what they could do and what they're not doing. You know, so I think that's one of the first things you notice. I mean, then the next thing you notice, your senses become very heightened. Your intuition becomes keen, and you begin to sense things and see things way ahead of time. And that's the merging of your physical senses with the astral senses. See, because when you predetermine your actions, you don't give life to the emotional body that oftentimes expresses itself through the astral senses, through the astral awareness. The astral senses express itself on the physical plane as emotion. And when you predetermine your actions, you lower that emotional output. Because why? You're taking control over that. See? Because you predetermining your every thought and your every direction. You know, through adopted principles of life. So that lessens the negative samskaras that you build up in the aura. And the ones that's there actually, they fall and sink deep down into the aura, and they become dormant to allow the new samskaras to take place, which have been brought about by your right thought and actions. See? And now you have a free flow of energy through you. And some of the samskaras that your newfound principles, they become so entrenched in you that you burn those negative, some of the negative samskaras up, never to show itself again, because you have replaced them with a newfound level of consciousness. They can't stay there with the level of consciousness that you have positioned, this sattvic level of living that you have brought about. They can't exist there anymore. Karma dictate that the energy must be burnt up and transmuted into something higher. So that's what the Yama and Niyama does for you. Okay, so it has good and bad, you know, but majority is good in my opinion. All right?
When does that, like the good or the reward aspect come? Because at least in the beginning parts, it feels like it's a lot of limitation, a lot of restriction, a lot of control, a lot of discipline, and a lot of isolation, and it becomes really difficult to stay focused on that end goal, or to keep patience as you go through the whole process. Like, how do you, I guess, continue moving forward when it just seems like it gets tougher and tougher and tougher?
I mean, you make a vow. I mean, I think in one of those yamas it was said make a vow. You got to make a vow with yourself and God to always do this, because if you know, the ancient teachings say that the present man here on earth have been here for 18,600,000 years. So this present life is a second, less than a second. So I mean, you know, make a vow to do the right thing.
You're burning up stuff too, right?
Yeah.
There's a purifying going on.
So I mean, so the little bit of stuff you're going through now is nothing. Look at it on the scope of things. You know, make a vow. Let that vow live for 100,000, 200,000, a million years. You know, I mean, you know, have faith that because as you move on, you will see your consciousness will expand, and you will be aware of your longevity. That this life is just is just a moment in time, a small moment. Don't get trapped up in you know, because it's all about making the proper sacrifice. You know, adopting these principles may seem like a sacrifice now, but later you'll laugh about it. You say, why didn't I do this, you know, 10 lives ago? So, I mean, it's you know, it's so simple. So simple, it's almost ridiculous. Think about it. That's how simple it is. All right. So next week we'll go into the pranayama.